Young and the Restless Spoilers reveal that Billy has always been an adventurer, but this time the adventure has a completely different color, when anxiety and doubt have urged him to defy everything. Leave the safe place and engage in a game that even Sally feels insecure about. The mysterious appearance of Aristotle Dumas in the Genoa City business world is like a breath of fresh air, but also has too many potential dangers. And when the invitation to the Friday the 13th party is sent, not only Billy, but also the key figures of the Abbott family such as Jack and Diane cannot ignore. Sally is always practical and sensitive to risks. She does not hesitate to warn Billy about the dangers that may occur, especially when they are building Abbott Communications, and this time is extremely sensitive. But for Billy, the sense of responsibility for the family is always greater than any personal calculations. He knew that Dumas's presence was a sign that a secret war might be brewing against the Abbotts, and if he didn't confront it head-on, things would spiral out of control. During the days leading up to the party, Billy had sensed the tension among his acquaintances. The whispers about Dumas' true motives, the assumptions about Dumas' connections to rival corporations, and some even suspected that Dumas was sent by Victor to create instability within the Abbotts. Sally, despite her devotion to Billy, could not calm her worries. She had witnessed countless bloody power plays in Genoa City and had seen many acquaintances destroyed by a moment of carelessness. But the more she tried to stop him, the more she realized that Billy's will was unshakable. He had always believed that to protect what was most important, he had to dare to step into the eye of the storm, accepting all risks to get the right answer. The Dumas party was held in Nice, France, where summer was always passionate but also glittered with mysteries behind the luxurious, magnificent appearance. The Dumas summer house was like a fortress isolated from the world, with a strict security system and an air of mystery surrounding an ambitious owner. Billy, along with Sally, Jack and Diane, set foot in this place with completely opposite moods. If Jack was always calm and cautiously observing, Diane could not hide her restlessness. As for Sally, she kept a polite smile, but in her heart she was constantly judging the possibilities, trying to identify each stranger, each gaze following the four of them. From the moment Billy set foot in the house, he realized that this was not simply a party. Dumas was extremely hospitable. Polite greetings, open conversations about art, business, wine, but all were just the perfect cover to hide the real purpose. Billy had always had a good intuition. He felt the arrangement was too clever in every detail, from the decoration, the menu to the guest list full of people holding key positions in the European media and finance. In particular, he paid attention to the tall, neatly dressed men, his eyes never leaving the Abbott family guests. While Sally tried to blend into the party atmosphere, exchanging a few stories with the sophisticated French guests, she couldn't help but anxiously observe Billy, realizing he was a loner in the crowd. Billy thought about everything that had happened at Abbott Communications in the past few months: the sudden broken contracts, the shady stock transactions, the series of false rumors spreading in the media. He knew that none of it was a coincidence. Dumas appeared at the right time when everything was chaotic, proposed to cooperate with Abbott, creating a strange attraction for even the most cautious people like Jack. But the more Billy thought about it, the more he feared that this was just the prelude to a sinister takeover plan. The party began with elaborate dishes and fine wines, the melodious music, but could not hide the tense atmosphere. Dumas stepped up to the podium, smiling humorously, talking about his passion for business and his admiration for American family-style corporations like Abbott. But the more polite his words were, the more the listeners could clearly feel the deep hidden meaning. Dumas mentioned tradition, the strength of unity, but did not forget to emphasize the courage to change, the art of seizing opportunities. Billy noticed that Dumas's eyes stopped for quite a while at Jack and him, then moved to Sally and Diane, as if he was gauging their reactions. Back in the hotel room with Sally, Billy quietly contemplated everything that had just happened. He realized that leaving the country at this time was not just a spur-of-the-moment move, but could be a life-or-death decision for the Abbott family. Sally, though worried, still encouraged him with all her love and trust, knowing that without Billy at the center of this battle, the Abbott family might lose to a veteran opponent like Dumas. In the following days in France, Billy proactively contacted Jack and Diane to come up with a countermeasure. They hired investigative experts, re-examined the entire network security system of Abbott Communications, and secretly collected information about potential shareholders of Dumas. The first evidence revealed that Dumas had begun to buy back shares of small partners, quietly building up power in the dark. Meanwhile, Sally uses her media connections to spread positive news about the Abbott family, to strengthen the confidence of current shareholders and prevent a mass exodus. Billy also meets Dumas privately one afternoon, pretending to cooperate but actually trying to probe further into his deeper plans. During the cryptic conversation, Billy discovers that Dumas is not only aiming for control of the company but also wants to attack the Abbott family's weakest points, personal secrets, old wounds that have not healed, and hidden conflicts between generations. This makes Billy even more determined to protect his family at all costs. The trip to France, which was supposed to be just a social event, turns out to be a key battle in the Abbott family's life and death struggle. As all the dangers gradually come to light, Billy realizes that he has no way back. He is forced to choose between his personal safety and the future of the entire family. Although Sally was still worried and skeptical, she eventually understood and supported Billy. Because true love is always accompanying even when it is dangerous. In the quiet night of nights, Billy looked out at the sea, thinking about the storms that awaited him. He understood that this battle had only just begun, and if he wanted to win, he would need not only to be alert, but also to trust his loved ones, his true allies. Because, in the world of hidden powers, sometimes just a moment of hesitation can cost everything. There was something different about the atmosphere in the Chancellor Winter's office this morning. Though there was still the same hurried rhythm of work, the urge of dreams of power and the polite smiles that hid many thoughts. Nate walked down the wide hallway, his mind filled with a series of premonitions of a period of upheaval that was about to befall everyone involved. Today, the conversation between him, Audra, and Amy Lewis could mark the beginning of a new chain of events, when hidden forces and personal ambitions began to collide more strongly. Audra appeared with her usual confident and competent appearance, her eyes always scanning every detail around her, as if she always knew half of what was going to happen. She respected Nate. But there was always a thin line between exploration, cooperation, and competition between them. Amy, who had just gone through days of self-questioning and doubt, was now ready to speak up for herself. She sat down, her face calmer than usual, her eyes shining with determination. As Amy began to share about the importance of a positive attitude, the atmosphere in the room calmed, as if everyone was aware that, after so much turmoil, what remained could be just how we perceive things. Amy talked about what she had witnessed in recent projects, about how negativity can easily spread in stressful work environments, about the true values of optimism and proactively facing challenges. It was not just advice, but also a gentle farewell. After all, Amy revealed that she had made an important decision for the future, a choice that she believed would help her regain balance and peace after the turmoil. She wanted to thank Audra and Nate for creating an environment that was challenging but also full of learning opportunities, even though things did not always go smoothly. Amy realized that it was time to leave the whirlpool of internal strife and create her own path, taking all the risks to pursue what she truly desired. Audra listened, silent for quite a while. She understood that feeling because she herself had stood at the crossroads many times, having to choose between power and freedom, between personal ambitions and the need to be herself. Audra wished Amy luck, but deep down she wondered, is there really anyone in this world who can escape the whirlpool of fame and temptation, or does everyone eventually return to the starting point, drawn back by a force greater than their own will? Nate didn't say much, but his eyes showed respect for Amy's choice. However, what bothered Nate the most was not Amy's departure, but the recent appearance of Damien, a strange man who had quickly attracted attention in the business and media circles of Genoa City. Damien gave Nate a vague sense of unease, as if behind his gentle exterior was a raging fire that was always ready to burst forth and sweep away everything in its path. Although Damien had never made any overt moves against Chancellor Winters or Lily's inner circle, Nate's intuition told him that this was an extremely dangerous man, someone who always lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to appear. When Amy left the room, Nate lingered by the window, his eyes fixed on the misty sky outside. He thought back to his encounters with Damien. Every look, every gesture, every conversation was calculated by Damien to be just friendly enough, just distant enough. Damien knew how to make people unpredictable and not completely trustworthy. That made Nate even more suspicious. He recalled fragmented information about Damien, an unclear past, unusually successful investments, the mysterious disappearance of several competitors shortly after clashing with Damien. Each piece of the puzzle created a vague picture of a man with great ambition and not afraid to use any means to achieve his goals. The more Nate thought about it, the more worried he felt for Lily, his sister, who always tended to believe in the good side of people and was open to new opportunities. To Lily, Damien was a potential investor, bringing many attractive projects to Chancellor Winters. Lily always saw opportunities for development, growth, and establishing a position for the company against long-standing competitors like Newman or Abbott. But Nate knew that just one wrong decision, just one misplaced trust, all the achievements that Lily and her family had built would go up in smoke. Nate found Lily in her office at the end of the day. The atmosphere in Lily's office was warm and hopeful, just like her. He shared his concerns about Damien, emphasizing his lack of transparency in the past, as well as his ambiguous relationships. Nate advised Lily to be very careful when deciding to cooperate or accept any proposal from Damien, especially in the context of the turmoil within Chancellor Winters. Lily listened, but with her optimistic nature, she still believed in her ability to judge people. However, deep in Lily's eyes, there was still a trace of concern, because she understood more than anyone that Nate's warnings were never unfounded. In the following days, Damien appeared more and more in strategy meetings, investment networking events, and high-level social gatherings. Although always maintaining a polite and gentle demeanor, Damien could not hide his sharpness in asking questions and grasping information. Audra carefully observed Damien's every reaction, and many doubts arose in her heart. She began to collect information through underground relationships, gradually discovering the dark side of Damien's past, from shady deals, rival acquisitions to rumors of media manipulation, using dark tricks to gain control of the target company. Audra realized that if Damien were allowed to go deeper into Chancellor Winters, there would be no way back for anyone. At a major business networking event in the city, Damien had the opportunity to come into close contact with many senior members of Chancellor Winters. The event atmosphere was luxurious and brilliant, but behind every smile, every handshake, were a series of hidden calculations. Damien quickly won the sympathy of investors and even some old shareholders, thanks to his outstanding persuasive ability and strategic vision. Lily, despite Nate's warnings, was lured in by the promises of huge profits, strong financial backing, and innovative ideas that could help the company break out. However, she was not completely blind. Lily quietly observed how Damien handled difficult questions, how he answered questions about funding, partners, and the real reasons behind recent investments. Nate continued to investigate. He approached some of Damien's former partners, discovering that some of his close associates had turned hostile or disappeared from the industry for no apparent reason. He also connected with cybersecurity experts to review internal data systems, guarding against the risk of an insider intrusion. Gradually, Nate gathered more and more evidence that Damien was quietly building a network of trusted shareholders, preparing for a covert takeover of Chancellor Winters. Audra, with her experience, began to coordinate with Nate, share information, and develop response scenarios if Damien really acted. Together, they built a financial defense system, strengthened trust with loyal shareholders, and proactively promoted the company's achievements and sustainable development potential to increase its attractiveness in the market. Audra also sought to approach Damien, pretending to be friendly to exploit information from private conversations, and at the same time using media relations to closely monitor his unusual moves. Undercurrents began to emerge within Chancellor Winters. Some board members were caught up in an underground power struggle, and rumors of possible mergers, acquisitions, or share sales were spreading. Lily felt unprecedented pressure, having to protect the company's position, maintain optimism for the entire staff, and be wary of any risks that might come from Damien and his faction. Deep down, Nate knew that all the warnings and preparations would only be meaningful if the key members of Chancellor Winters were truly united and trusted each other. He decided to open up to Audra, put aside his old doubts to face the common challenge with her. Both understood that this was a pivotal moment, when every decision could create a major turning point for the company's destiny as well as each person's future. The atmosphere of Nikki's birthday party was filled with a layer of both splendor and suspense, because besides the solemnity of a ceremony for the most powerful woman in Genoa City, everyone knew that this was also an occasion for important figures to test their luck and abilities on the family chessboard. Claire walked down the grand staircase, Her eyes clear but exuding the maturity of someone who had experienced many storms, always knowing when to soften her heart and when to be tough. She smiled slightly at Nikki, gave her warm and sincere wishes, then quickly looked for Kyle in the crowd. Kyle, despite wearing a luxurious suit and a confident appearance, was still a hidden wave of complicated thoughts. He had never truly felt secure when entering any party related to the Newman family, especially when he himself had the last name Abbott. The age-old rivalry between the two families, though sometimes soothed by polite handshakes, still smoldered like a fire ready to flare up at any moment. Kyle realized Claire was looking towards him, her eyes filled with trust and expectation. Claire was a rare person sensitive enough to understand and sympathize with Kyle's desire to be acknowledged, to be accepted, especially by Victor, the man with the power to decide everything in the family. Kyle smiled slightly at Claire as if to signal to her that, no matter how many challenges lay ahead, he would not hesitate to face them. Claire moved closer, whispering that tonight she would give him more than one dance, as a sweet promise and encouragement before the storm. It was not just a dance, but also Claire's recognition of Kyle's efforts and sincerity, a source of motivation to help him be more courageous in facing Victor and the deep doubts from the Newman family. But before he could enjoy that moment of lightness, Kyle had an important task to do. For weeks he had been struggling to get Victor to see him not as an outsider, a son of Jack Abbott who was always causing trouble, but as a mature, trustworthy man worthy of Claire's company. Kyle's previous interactions with Victor had never achieved the desired results. All attempts to please and clever words were seen through or outright dismissed by Victor. For Victor, true character was only shown through actions and promises. Romantic gestures on the dance floor or elaborate gifts could not change history or ingrain prejudices. What Kyle was most concerned about was the indelible distinction between the Abbotts and Newmans. Although Claire had always been on his side, encouraging him to dare to express his opinions and dare to face Victor, Kyle understood clearly, no gesture was big enough to make Victor truly accept him, unless he made an undeniable impression on the head of the Newman family. In a short moment, amid the cheerful music and laughter, Kyle quietly separated himself from the whirlpool of the party, approaching Victor with a long-cherished plan. He did not choose to present at length, did not rely on old relationships or the petty benefits that businessmen often exchange. Kyle brought Victor a bold business plan that could help the Newman Group expand into a completely new field, a field that Abbott Communications had researched but had never made public. In that plan, Kyle pointed out the huge potential if the two families joined hands, and at the same time pledged not to let Abbott enjoy any special rights, all based on the real capacity of the project. He did not hesitate to share the potential risks, did not embellish the success, but focused on practical, specific, and transparent steps. Victor, with his experience, was not easily convinced. He listened, sometimes interrupting to ask questions that probed the weaknesses and the smallest holes in Kyle's plan. But what caught Victor's attention was not the numbers, but the way Kyle patiently explained, accepted suggestions, and did not hide any difficulties. Kyle did not avoid the dangers, did not try to blame the situation or others, but frankly took responsibility for every decision that would have been made if Victor had allowed this project to start. That was rare for someone with the surname Abbott, who is often considered arrogant and preferring confrontation rather than cooperation. After a long and tense exchange, Victor still hadn't made a final decision, but his eyes were less cold. Victor recognized in Kyle the seriousness that he had always been strict about looking for in those who wanted to enter his family.